Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to watchyouwant.com. Thanks for logging on. Today we're going to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope yours, the water resistance of watches. Now, water resistance in watches is something that came about in the early 20th century as a result of experiments designed to overcome the number one vulnerability of every watch then and now, which is corrosion due to water and, to a lesser extent, dust and debris. Now, in the first 3 or 4 centuries of pocket watches weren't water resistant at all. If your watch got wet, water was getting inside it, and you would have to dry it out or take it to a watchmaker immediately. Water was the nemesis of the mechanical movement, and it still is. Now today, we're able to take advantage of modern machining tolerances and seals, as well as testing facilities and testing technology to create a range of waterproof, or I should say water-resistant technologies. And you'll note that waterproof is a term that passed out of fashion in the 1960s with the onset of consumer protection, because no watch, truthfully, is waterproof. You have to do your homework, pay attention, use your equipment right, and know its limits. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, this Audemars Piguet Edward Piguet chronograph is a dress watch. It has 3 to 5 ATM of water resistance, which in the traditional, read 19th century sense, would have made it a waterproof watch. Realistically, even though it's rated to 3 ATM, that's a splash-only watch. If you get a little water while washing your hands, if it gets splashed because someone's in a pool and does something naughty to you while you're sitting poolside, the watch will be okay. But the water resistance ratings on all watches are static laboratory test numbers. They put them in a tank, they bring up the pressure slowly, they bring down the pressure slowly. This is performed when the seals are brand new, greased just out of the factory. So you're talking a best case, gentle scenario. It's not like getting hit with a hose. It's not like jumping off the high dive. A watch that's water resistant to 30 to 50 meters is actually not suitable for use in water. Now, moving on from this type of crown, which is just a pull-in, pull-out friction fit that has a spring within the keyless works, that's the part that retains the crown inside the watch, you move on to something like this. Now, this is a 1972 Steve McQueen Explorer 2. Now, in its day, this watch would have been rated to 10 ATM, which is a way of saying 100 meters or about 330 feet of water resistance. It uses the Rolex Oyster case with a screw-down crown and a screwed-in case back. This was their own innovation. They popularized the water-resistant watch with the Oyster in the 1920s, and they've been riding that high ever since. Often copied, this is the most popular type of water resistance technology today. More water-resistant watches will have screw-down crowns than any other technology. So you screw it out. This is what's called the twin lock crown with twin seals. And when new, and I'm going to emphasize that this is a 40-year-old watch, this watch would have had 10 ATM of water resistance. And there are still many watches like this that have a comparable degree of water resistance with the twin lock case in the Rolex lineup. They also have the triple lock crown now, and of course Omega, Breitling, and many others use similar designs with similar water resistance ratings. Now, in pursuit of a crown that was easier to use when your hands are wet or gloved or dirty, and in pursuit of longer seal life, a Panerai in the 1950s switched from the Rolex screw-down crown style to this. It's called the Device Protecting the Crown, or the DPC. Patented in 1956, this is iconic of Panerai because not only does it hold the crown secure, it also shields the crown and it creates an unmistakable profile. What this allows you to do is unlock it, so you're not going to dive into the water without fixing it, and that's key because you don't want to leave whatever your crown locking device is open. When you have a screw-down crown like the Rolex, you really have to make sure it's threaded down all the way, because an open screw-down crown, when left open, is worse than having no screw-down crown at all. It's almost like having an open case. So very tight when screwed down, it becomes a sieve when left open. You can't make that mistake here. This is a red flag. You're not going in water with that open. And it also allows you to easily pull out the crown to set the time or to wind the watch. This is a PAM 36. This is a what's called a pre-Vendôme vintage reference from the late 90s. Very collectible, very rare, but this crown device, which allows 30 ATM or 300 meters, yes, of water resistance, this is common to most modern Panerai Luminor models. In fact, this is distinctive and iconic of the Luminor. Every modern Panerai watch branded Luminor will have it. Just make sure it's secured before you go in the water. Now, there is a class known as the Extreme Dive Watch. These watches are water resistant to over 1,000 meters, so for all practical intents and purposes, this is the upper limit of human physical potential, and then only in very controlled, high-tech industrial and scientific capacities. If you're using your watch as a means of survival, you want to have this type of technology. 1,000 meters of water resistance, that's 100 ATM, and like the Panerai, you have an alternative crown device. This is called a compressor crown. It's JLC's unique contribution to dive watch technology. 1/2 turn and it's open. Now you can wind the watch, you can reset the time, you can alter the GMT dial, and then you turn it 1/2 turn, white you're tight, blue you're through, it's color coded, it's hard to miss, it's easy to use with gloves or wet hands. So this is their own proprietary water resistance crown seal technology. Now you also see that on a watch like this that has a professional unidirectional diving bezel, high contrast indexes and dial, everything about this is purpose-built, and this is a tool watch. So in general, tool watches have very different service requirements than your standard waterproof watches. All of these are high-end luxury watches, but with different intents. This is the only one that someone might actually take in a dive bell, or in a situation where decompression becomes necessary before surfacing. And if you're going to use your dive watch as a piece of life-saving gear, I would recommend that you have the seals checked and the water resistance checked annually. For all the rest, you want to have your water resistance checked every 2 to 3 years, just to ensure that your watch is going to be safe against water damage. And remember, only you can prevent accidental drownings. If you've got those screw-down crowns, screw them down. If you've got the locking lever, put it back in place. And if you have one of these, don't go anywhere near water. watchyouwant.com can do service on your watch if you want to have it water resistance tested, or if, heaven forbid, you see there's water in the watch and you need to get it serviced ASAP. Overnight it to us. We are a physical storefront in Hollywood, Florida. We have the ability to service everything we sell. We have an in-house watchmaking studio with master watchmakers, water resistance testing, water resistance verification. We are the luxury pre-owned watch experts. Contact us at www.watchyouwant.com. You just may find the watch you want or the service you need.